It's the road to Stanley, DJ Bean, Pete Blackburn. We could be on the road to a couple of sweeps, Peter. Both conference final series at 2-0 right now. Panthers up on Carolina and Vegas up 2-0 in their Western Conference final against the Stars. Do either of these series seem over to you?
Not really, but I'll say maybe the Eastern Conference series, just because I was a little skeptical and I pushed back on the Team of Destiny thing with the Florida Panthers for quite a while. And I think it's pretty tough to do that at this point because Florida just won't lose. And, obviously they take two in Raleigh, and I think that that's a big, big deal. And I also look at the Western Conference. Dallas probably should have won game two. If it weren't for Ryan Suter, who we'll talk about in a little bit, if it weren't for Ryan Suter just completely losing any sense of spatial awareness or brain cells in the final minute of game two, Dallas probably wins that game. I thought that they were better. They played really well defensively and limiting what Vegas got. So I still think that Dallas is maybe not the better team, but I still give them a really significant shot to win that series. I just have a hard time pushing back against the Panthers as a team of destiny at this point.
Both series are kind of where I thought they would be in terms of I thought the Panthers would absolutely win in the East, and I thought the Knights would absolutely win in the West. That said, the only one that actually feels over is Florida over Carolina. As you said, the Team of Destiny thing, that train has long left the station. I think some of us, I felt it after game one of the second round against the Leafs.
You said it after they won their second game of the playoffs. You're like, this team's got it.
Yes, because what were they doing? Why were they there? I mean, a team that was supposed to be good this season that struggled to make the playoffs, then they show up and they look like they have any sort of feistiness. Oh yeah, give me that team. If they return to the form that they were supposed to be, sure, they can make a run. Plus they were playing the Leafs in the second round, so it was kind of cheating. Very easy, a free space in bingo, if you will, to say, all right, that team winning, moving on. Dallas, here's the thing, they typically respond very well to losses. They always fall behind in these series and they end up finding a way to come back. I don't think they're going to do it because you can't spot a team like Vegas that is rolling right now, a 2-game lead. I do think they'll make it more of a series than Carolina will. Also, as you said, this one's going back to Florida. Not that Florida has the hugest home ice advantage in the world, but I think Florida wins that series. They have now won.
It's not a home ice advantage in Florida, but Carolina lost their home ice advantage in Raleigh. That's a team, whenever anybody talks about Carolina, they're like, wait till this series goes back to Raleigh. They're going to seize control. They gave up control.
Famously, when people talk about Carolina, it's not that. It's why aren't people talking about Carolina more? It's a lot of discourse about the discourse regarding Carolina. Very online are the Hurricanes fans. Panthers, meanwhile, have won 8 of 9. Very Team of Destiny-ish. Is it Sergei Bobrovsky stepping in? Is it Matthew Tkachuk arriving?
So here's the thing. I think that Matthew Tkachuk has raised his profile and his stardom more than any other player in the playoffs, and I don't think it's even close. We're talking about him as the potential Jimmy Butler of the NHL at this point. But I'm going to give more credit to Sergei Bobrovsky because I don't think Matthew Tkachuk has that opportunity if it weren't for Sergei Bobrovsky. I think that Sergei Bobrovsky has paved the way for Matthew Tkachuk to really seize this moment. But it's pretty much inarguable that the Panthers wouldn't be here if it weren't for Bob, because we talked about it in the last month of the season, the regular season, where the Panthers got in because of good goaltending. Yeah, it wasn't Bob, but Bob turned it on in the playoffs. They're a different team with good goaltending, and they've gotten probably the best of any team in the playoffs so far, and that's the biggest reason that they're here. But yes, Matthew Tkachuk has really seized his moment and kind of elevated himself into a top echelon NHL player. If he wasn't there already, I think people are recognizing he is one of maybe the top 10 best players in the NHL.
All of the hype with Matthew Tkachuk this postseason has been warranted. And in the first round, I remember saying to you, everybody's saying Matthew Tkachuk is going to become a villain. What are you talking about? You have to be in the playoffs long to be a villain. You can't be a thorn in someone's side when you're being swept. But he, since arriving in Florida, I mean, it took a little while for it to manifest itself, of course. Since arriving in Florida, has changed the culture, has changed the DNA. The Jimmy Butler comp, I think, is very astute. As for Bob, look, Bob's going to be one of two things. He's going to be awesome or he is going to be terrible. So if you were to tell me, hey, guess what Sergei Bobrovsky is doing in the postseason right now? My guess would be he's probably awesome, because the most recent thing prior to that was he's terrible. And if you're doing the guess what, it's going to be a surprise. So I'm not shocked at all that Bobrovsky is doing one of the two things that he does.
Before we move on, I want to ask a question. Is Matthew Tkachuk a villain? Like, do you think that the perception of him at this point is a villain? Because I know a lot of people had some takes about him immediately leaving the ice after winning Game 2 in overtime. I thought it was hilarious. To me, I don't think there's a shred of villainous in Matthew Tkachuk, just because he looks like he's having the best time, and I don't think anybody considers Jimmy Butler a villain.
Exactly.
Has swag, and he just takes games over.
Exactly. I don't know what fan bases look, I mean, other than maybe like the Minnesota Timberwolves or Philadelphia 76ers, but that's their problem. Look at Jimmy Butler and are like, oh man, like he's never done anything to upset anybody. All he's done is break people's hearts, and that's what Matthew Tkachuk is doing. And I think that people look at the Panthers and say, these effing guys, why are they here? They're getting in the way of the Bruins' perfect season, or the Leafs having an easier path in the Eastern Conference. Why are these idiots still here? It's because of Matthew Tkachuk and that mindset that permeates throughout that clubhouse or locker room. I got confused when we started crossing sports. Who's your Stanley standout from the weekend?
Unfortunately, I'm going to say Ryan Suter. I feel like I was pretty mean to Ryan Suter in the opening segment. I'm going to double down. It was a horrible play, and I think that if the Dallas Stars get knocked out of the Western Conference Final, a lot of people are going to look back on that moment as a series-turning moment where Suter turns the puck over behind the blue line and then immediately loses his coverage in front of the net. You just can't allow that to happen, especially as a seasoned veteran this late in his career. You got to be smarter than that, and it's a moment where I'm sure he wishes he had it back, but it's something that's inexcusable.
It's Bruce Cassidy for me. It ended poorly in Boston, or I mean, I guess poorly to our surprise. It didn't look like it was going poorly in Boston, but the thing with him at the end was that players thought that he was too mean. They were too hard on him. Well, whatever's going on in Vegas, a good way to avoid players being pissed at you is to coach them so well that they win, so you can't say anything negative in press conferences. Bruce Cassidy looks like he's going to another Stanley Cup Final, and if he wins it, what a story it would be for him, what a story it would be for Vegas winning one as quickly as they have, and throughout the rest of the NHL. I think a lot of people will be looking around and saying, we got it wrong with this guy. All right, does Florida go up 3-0 tonight?
Yeah, probably. I'm not going to bet against the Panthers winning.
Yeah, they do. They're going to make it 9 of 10 because they're a team of destiny. This has been The Road to Stanley. DJ Bean, Pete Blackburn.